So let me be clear here. I'm not making any assumptions. I know for a fact what my mother was doing. When you have thousands of people asking you about your crazy mother, or when you know your father and mother did something horribly wrong, or when your mother and father are apologizing to you for what they did wrong but not wanting to understand it, or when you have people being scammed, like you got people who are car salesmen out of there. My father's paying them like more than 30 grand, and he's eating up piles of shit like crazy without even opening up his eyes to look around. Like literally, he sends his son to look around. I look around, I report back, and he's just eating up shit. So I know this stuff for a fact. I was there. I've known this stuff, a lot of it, for a long time. Like I've known my mother was doing something wrong since at least the age of 8 or something like that. I tried to explain it to doctors because doctors asked about it. Some they In the beginning I just wanted help and I was just mentioning the symptoms, but other people did ask about it. Teachers brought me in the hallways asking me about it. This isn't a memory coming fleshing back. This is a memory that I've had over and 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 over, and I couldn't figure out what the fuck it meant. Why would a teacher bring me in the hall asking me why my body changed right after my mother gave me some pills? I lost my vision. What the hell does this mean? My mother says it's an allergy attack. I'm asking doctors, and they're not. Oh, wait. I'm asking the wrong doctors, and my mother and father are literally moving me around. I have to spend more than 15 minutes with these people explaining the issue. This is a little more confusing than a 7-year-old is able to comprehend, or a 9-year-old, or a 12-year-old, or a 16-year-old, or even an 18-year-old. This is something that a parent of maybe age 35 might be able to understand. I mean, if you have kids and you listen to this beginning to end, you go, "Oh, yep. Okay. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, that makes sense." Oh, man, that sucks. Poor kid. But if you're 18 years old like I was, or 9 years old, you remember it every damn minute. It's a bad memory that's burned into your memory, but you don't know what it means. But when you get to a certain age, you do. You absolutely do. Like, I had no clue. Why is my mother trying to convince me to go along with made up illnesses that she's creating out of thin air in her fantasy land? Like, one time I was playing with action figures and she wanted me to lie to doctors about being schizophrenic. And then she chased me around the house screaming at me that I need to lie and make up all these stories. And I don't understand why my mother is coming to front with all these fantasies. It's not coming out of anywhere. There's no doctor saying these things. There's no other people. There's no actions. There's no reality to it. But yet she's chasing me around the house, wanting me to go along with her fantasy. And my father's going along with every single fantasy she brings up. Like, for instance, I had a swimming medal that meant a lot to me. I mean, an awfully lot. I won it in the orphanage just for treading water. But I was the one kid that treaded water the longest. Yeah, I was doing good up to about first grade. And then there was a lot of fucked up shit that started happening to me that I didn't understand. And it usually revolved around my mother or my mother's choices, what I didn't understand. But I knew these were scary. They burned in. My mother, I can still picture it today. My mother snatching my swimming medal out of my hand, screaming at me, bringing me to a doctor's office just to make up stories to him about my own swimming medal as I cry and say it's mine. It's just awful. And where does she come up with this shit? I mean, I was there, so I know. I've had this memory of winning it. I know the woman who gave it to me. I know that she wrote it with a little Sharpie. I remember the other kids going across the two buildings with me. I remember my hair being wet. I remember getting in the van. I remember that orphanage. I've had these memories my whole life. I remember that kid getting dragged for some medical treatment every morning. That was horrifying. Every morning in the orphanage, one of the kids would get dragged. I've had these memories for my whole life. All I have to do is think, what was the orphanage like? And then these memories I'll have. It's that simple. I have them for life. You don't forget these horrific memories like another kid in the orphanage getting dragged for medical treatments every morning across the floor. What the fuck is that shit? You don't forget, getting held down and getting a second dose of medication for no reason other than a fantasy that a 5-year-old spun. You don't forget your mother snatching your swimming medal away and trying to put you on drugs. And you don't know why you're on the pills because your mother's not explaining stuff to you because you are a young child. Even when I was 18, you think anybody pulled me aside and started explaining to me side effects, depression, illness, how you got to be careful not to diagnose mental illnesses based on side effects of medications. Like if you take downers, you might become down. So if you're ADHD, make sure to tell the difference when you're dealing with a doctor. Because if you're going to be on downers, you got to make sure that if you're bipolar or diagnosing other illnesses with ADHD, that those downers aren't the cause of the downness going down. If you're depressed or having any suicidal thoughts, make sure you're not on a medication that has any side effects of those manner. you know these are important things to teach your son or teach yourself if you're going to heavily medicate your son. But no, my mother just wanted to spin fantasies, and I had no clue why she was lying so much about me. But then Social Security came around. I knew she wanted attention, and I've had this neurological disorder so long, and every time I mentioned it, she started acting crazy and doing crazy things, and then we moved around the country, and I didn't know what that meant, so I started writing my whole life down, being very open and honest with everybody, and by doing so, I was like, holy fucking shit, my mother sucks. Oh my god, this isn't a mother who's crazy. This is a mother who's deadly. Oh man. Like for instance, as a child, getting sick on every Halloween, I used to call it the mystery illness. My friends were like, "Why do you get sick every Halloween?" I would say, "I don't know. It's a mystery illness. It's the curse. It's called I don't know, the curse. I don't know why. I vomit. I get pale. I get sick every Halloween." And then the curse got lifted at a certain age, and I had no clue why. But then, by about maybe 20 years old, I went back and thought about the curse, and I said, oh, well, shit, my mother administered me medications right before the curse started, and it weared off. So then I discussed this with a couple doctors online. I discussed it with a couple other doctors in Massachusetts, and they said, no, that's not normal. That's not normal for a reoccurring date to occur right when your mother doesn't want you to do something and she's administering medications. That seems like there might have been something that needed to be looked into. But at the age of 7, 8, 9, 10, I mean, a lot of these behaviors stopped before I was 12 in my mother because she didn't want to get caught. But she already trafficked me, and she already was drugging the shit out of me and having doctors drug me and lying to doctors. So that was her backup plan. This lie, 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 and they'll drug me. That's simple. First she drugs me, then she'll get the doctors to drug me. Correct. And then, not only that, I'll never get any medical care. She can call me a liar, a thief. Really, she's stealing my swimming medal and then calling me a thief. The thief is calling me a thief, and the liar is calling me a liar. How do you explain that at 7 years old? You're just trying to show your mother a swimming medal that you won in an orphanage. That's it. That's all that happened. But when your mother is lying, coming up with fantasies, and stealing your medal, how do you explain that? How do you say that at the age of 7? It's very difficult, especially when you get whipped with rulers. You're not allowed to speak up against them. I mean, this isn't a normal household. This was I'm never allowed to speak up against them. I'm not allowed to tell the truth if they did something wrong. If they're stealing my pills, I'm not allowed to watch or I'm in trouble. Just you got to remember that this is very, very different than most people's households. And I'm being moved. Most of the time, I'm not even in this household, but yet they're still controlling the drugs and my doctors. So you literally got my mother controlling my doctors. Meanwhile, she doesn't even see me half the time. So this is in which I do see her, she's smacking me around and doing horrible things. So this is pretty bad. And you wait wondering, where's my father? Well, he told me he would stay out of this right from the beginning. My mother could literally be putting a hot red poker up my ass, and I could be screaming and needing hospital, and he'd probably be downstairs going, "Be quiet up there." So you got to recognize that these problems existed. I have a Nicorette lozenge in my lip, and I don't feel good. My nervous system just got jabbed by needles. They had a bunch of tests to run at the hospital again. I'm doing my best just to do the right thing here, but it's really hard when you have assholes with money who are willing to lie and manipulate for so long. I don't have money, I can't drive, I can't walk, I have a neurological disorder for 25 years, I've been visible to everybody. There was people in Westford all the way back at 7 who were asking questions about the same issue. There were people asking at the age of 15 about the same issue. There's hundreds of people asking me about the same neurological disorder going back all the way to the overdose. As soon as the overdose happened, people started asking me about this neurological disorder, shaking, all that. I mean, basically, no coordination, some shakes, twitches, just random stuff like that. A lot of muscle problems and a random seizure here and there, and I'm not quite sure what that's about. I wasn't allowed to see doctors, so that explains that. The doctors I were allowed to see were psychiatrists that my mother were allowed to control. Like one of them, I was supposed to draw, and my mother was supposed to just talk to the psychiatrist while he writes a book about it, and she gets to spin stories. And whenever I try to tell him that she's lying, he just tells me to let it go. Let it go. How do you don't need, why are you so upset at your mother? I just told you she's spinning a story right in front of you. Are you sure it's not some attachment disorder? Don't bring up that bullshit from fucking age 7 that my mother spun from a swimming medal. Yeah, I know. My mother had me labeled attachment disorder because of a swimming medal. It started, I remember that I was sucking my skin and there was a swimming medal and there was one little match where I tried to light a match and couldn't get any of the matches to light. I remember all that. But what does that have to do with my mother lying in your office to my face while I draw and draw stuff over here? What does that? Oh, no, no. See, I think it is attachment disorder, my mother says. It is attachment disorder, see? And changes the conversation. And then there's more pills, more twitches, more ticks. I'm bringing up the twitches and ticks. And because my doctor's, again, not listening to me and just my mother and father, maybe it's a side effect. We're going to go up on these drugs. Nobody ever listened to me because I wasn't allowed to speak anything about myself. If I spoke about the overdose, I was told to be quiet about it. That was nothing my father and mother wanted to look into. They didn't want to look into my coordination after the teachers wanted them to look into it. Everybody wanted them to look into this in Westford. I wanted them to look into this. I wanted them to look into it in Texas. And you know what my mother did? She cut off all doctors and all teachers. Very suspicious behavior, and it's a million red flags. And I did not see the red flags because I was a young child. But as an adult, I know this is fucked up shit that needs to be handled.